Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And in this one, I will be covering my Balanced Druid PvP guide. I will be going over the optimal talent choices, conduit choices, legendary choices, covenant choices, and I will be covering over a bit of strategy as well and what you should be looking to do so that you can get started on your Balanced Druid and so that you can start climbing. This is kind of a follow-up and an update to my original Balanced Druid guide, which has now gotten, I think, over 200,000 views on this channel. So this is a more up-to-date current version of that guide. So you want to make sure that you're completely up to date, and things have changed since that last video. Then this is the video that you're going to want to watch. Balanced Druid is definitely on the rise right now. I've been enjoying it a lot more recently. I've been climbing exponentially higher than I had previously, even playing Resto Druid, which is great at the moment, and I've actually been having a lot of fun with it, so I would definitely recommend it just as an upfront thing. So let's get started here. Let's take a look at the talents and cover them. Which talents do you want to take? Which talents can you ignore and you don't really need to think about? So on the first row here, we have Nature's Balance. This is an automatic lock-in talent, and for one of the main reasons is because it will allow you to start the fight with a Star Surge, which will allow you to stack your Boomkin aura and allow you to have more on-demand damage immediately at the beginning of an engagement. Plus, it gives you some passive regeneration throughout the fights that you don't always need to be casting to generate your astral power, which means you can bank up more Star Surges in the future. Warrior of the Elune is a 45-second cooldown. Your next 3 Starfires instant cast and generate 40 increased astral power. Really tough to squeeze this out and lose the benefit of all the extra Star Surges from Nature's Balance, because Star Surge is your main kill pressure, and right now kill pressure is the most important thing. Potentially, if more padded damage comes forward and is more relevant in future patches, this could be viable, but at the moment it's not. And then Force of Nature will generate your astral power during their uptime, but unfortunately they do pretty much lackluster damage at best, and it's a pretty significantly long cooldown to trade off for getting an extra Star Surge. So auto lock in Nature's Balance. Here on the second row, I have seen some players basically never going Tiger Dash. It's just not worth it in terms of value. Your secondary option is Renewal. If you're a beginning Balanced Druid, or you're fighting a composition where you think mobility is not going to be necessary, or you won't be able to escape your targets, Renewal can be a really good kind of pick-me-up heal in emergency moments. But myself, I pretty much almost am always exclusively playing Wild Charge. I think having access to the ability to just leap in multiple directions to root targets in bear form is going to provide you more of an advantageous play style at the moment in Arena. Because so if you're standing still too long on a Boomkin at the moment, since the nerfs to their tankiness, you're probably going to get cut down. But I do see Boomkins running this, so it seems to be a little bit of a flex option that you may want to experiment with. Like I said, if you're a beginner, I think Renewal is probably going to be better. But as you become more advanced and able to track enemies' mobility and then know how to escape with this, that it's going to get you a lot more value and be a lot more frustrating for people to be able to take you out. As far as the affinities go here on the affinity row, you're pretty much always running Guardian Affinity. Getting 6% damage reduction and Frenzied Regeneration and In-Cap Roar gives you the highest durability, most bang for your buck in terms of crowd control and setup, and you kind of need it to survive at the moment. Feral Affinity is pretty much just almost always a no-go as Balanced Druid, and then Resto Affinity, the spells that you get from it are just a little bit too awkward to use. Ursul's Vortex is going to DR your Typhoon. You're never going to press Wild Growth in PvP. Swiftmend will consume your Hot, so it takes like 2 globals to get this heal. That Frenzied Regeneration would just be off global basically to heal you. The Ysera's Gift is not enough healing to equate the amount of burst damage available in the game, so always pretty much you're running Guardian Affinity. Onto the fourth row here. Mighty Bash can be a good pickup if you're looking to just peel, or you know the enemy has too many ways to get out of mass entanglement for their healer. So if they have lots of paladins and hunters for freedom effects, if they have a Resto Druid, if you know the enemy healer is a gnome, Bash is going to be a better pick. But if they don't, I think the Mass Entanglement is a better pick, because this is going to allow you to instantly crowd control the enemy healer with Mass Entanglement plus Solar Beam, and then you can dump all of your burst damage, which synergizes in how the Balanced Druid plays at the moment. I have seen some Balanced Druids in 2v2, if you're running like double DPS or doing skirmishes by yourself, play Heart of the Wild for extra tankiness. But other than that, you're not going to see it too much in competitive 3v3. Now onto the level 40 row. Star-Lord is pretty much an auto lock-in. I never change this talent. Just being able to get a lot of haste is going to help you on your astral power generation, help you out on your damage overall, and it just makes your character feel good. Trying to cast clones with all the interrupts and groundings and reflects and stuff get difficult, so being able to stack up your haste and then be able to go for those cyclones is going to help you smooth out your gameplay by so much that I value this talent higher than anything else. Soul of the Forest is just not worth it. You're never able to really cast that much, and even if you did, I really don't think this talent would follow through with any substantial amounts of damage. And then Incarnation Chosen of Elune is kind of just an all-in meme in my opinion. You're getting the same effects plus 10% crit plus a little bit longer duration. I don't think that's worth trading the haste, which is going to allow you to cyclone, root, and control enemies, which is a very important role for you at the moment. So always Star-Lord. Onto the level 45 row. Twin Moons is pretty much an auto lock-in at all times. Running 10% extra Moonfire damage and being able to get your dots up faster by Moonfiring 2 targets is way too valuable to give up. Stellar Drift, if you want to kind of meme and have some fun, I have some videos on my channel here of me running this build. I don't think that I would ever play it to try and get rank 1, but if I'm just playing for fun, I'm running some Wizard Cleaves or Battlegrounds, this can be a very fun talent to move around and cast, as well as get some extra Starfall damage out. So it's a fun talent, but I really wouldn't take it competitively. And then Stellar Flare is just a no-go. If you get interrupted on this, you just can't cast any spells. It does pathetic damage for how difficult it is to cast, and it generates pathetic astral power for how difficult it is to cast. I also just don't like the way my Balanced Druid plays having 3 dots. I've never liked it since the inception of this talent, and the bias aside, the output of it is just not there. Kind of hoping that it never gets there. I'd almost rather see this talent just replaced at some point in the future, but at the moment, Twin Moons lock in. Now onto the final row, you have Solstice. If you want more sustained damage and you're trying to run a healer out of mana, Solstice can actually be a good pick, and if you think you're going to be able to free cast, because you can get into your Eclipse and then trigger its effect. So against Paladin healers, you can actually run them out of mana pretty fast with this talent, and I think you squeeze out a little bit more DPS overall. But generally, the standard is Fury of Elune at the moment. That way you can get even more Star Surges during your burst window. So you're going to line this up with your empowerment, and I'll cover that just in a moment. But Fury of the Elune is pretty much auto lock-in. And then again, if you want some memes and you want some fun stuff, you can run New Moon with Stellar Drift. That's how I normally combine them. And that's like random battleground stuff, not really super competitive. Now onto the honor talents. Some of these honor talents have changed, been deleted since my last video, so this is a really important component. Fairy Swarm is actually incredibly powerful at the moment. You are pretty much, let's just cover the lock-ins first. Boomkin Aura is pretty much lock-in all the time. Getting access to this much spell crit is going to scale up your team, your allies, and yourself by a lot. And if your Star Surges crit, they might kill. So Boomkin Aura is pretty much an auto lock-in. I pretty much now always run Alkin Adept as well. So this is now Alkin Frenzy can stack up to 2 times and reduce the cast time of your next Cyclone or Roots by 50%. This is going to allow you to get a ton of crowd control out whenever you're getting attacked or cleaved. And this is kind of your defense mechanism now to be able to survive when you're getting attacked, is to use these fast cast Cyclones and then move away from your target, which honestly plays a lot better for Balanced Druid than the previous just sitting in bear form, spam Moonfire. So you will want to be running these. The third one, which you can kind of mingle around a little bit more, is the Fairy Swarm. Super good into RMP. This is mandatory, in my opinion, against RMP. You're going to be able to disarm the rogue on their setups. And in the strategy video I'll cover after the end of this one, you'll see how great it is. So Rogue Mage, this is spectacularly good. If you're really struggling with melee cleaves like Arms Warriors, Enhancement Shamans, and stuff like that, you can give it a try. But I think in those cases that Thorns can be more valuable. I'm not in a rest area to change that, but so this Fairy Swarm would change into Thorns against the double melee DPS, into the Jungle Cleaves. This is going to give you a lot of extra damage. And then pretty much anything else where Thorns is not going to be valuable, Disarm is not going to be valuable, you're going to run Protector of the Grove to get extra healing on your team. If you are really struggling to survive, you can run Celestial Guardian. And this would be maybe into Wizards double caster. It's going to reduce magic damage by 10% while you're in bear form. And the ability to cast Moonfire in bear form is not going to be a big deal because you really don't get to spend a lot of time in it, unfortunately, at the moment. So the extra additional of that effect of that is not really going to be taken into account, but you can run that as an emergency. And that's pretty much your honor talents. Starburst is a super fun meme one again. And if you're running that Stellar Drift, New Moon, and random BGs, you can give that a go. But if you're wanting to play for super competitive levels, You're pretty much Fairy Swarm, Thorns, Protector are going to be your main go-to third lock-ins. I've been thinking about trying Deep Roots in some comps or Deep Root Solar Beam, kill healers type of deal, but I haven't gotten to go at it yet. You could try that if you really wanted to, but again, it's more of a cheese strat, and I wouldn't necessarily consider it the most competitive option. Now, when we move into the Covenants, we already talked about it a little bit. Kyrian is going to be your best Covenant right now. And for Balanced Druid, your Conduits can be pretty tough because most of the potency ones are actually not good at all. So you really want the Endurance Conduits. So when I go down this Pelagos tree here, which is kind of the auto lock-in at the moment, mostly for this, you're going to get extra mastery every time you activate the Kindred Spirits. This is going to really give you extra damage. It extends the duration of it. Like, you have to get this one. And then I go down into the Finesse Conduits, which this is Tireless Pursuit. When you leave Cat form or Trial form, you'll retain 40% of movement speed. Just lets you kite a lot better. And it gives you access to the Vial of Patience, which is a great extra heal. Vial of Serenity heals you for 35% additional health. So you've got your Frenzied Regeneration as a backup emergency heal, and this Vial now as a backup emergency heal. Let's say you use the Vial as your last ditch effort. Like, I'm out of every option. Now I'm going to use my Vial because you only get to really use it once. Then I went for the Well-Honed Instincts, automatic Frenzied Regen. You really can't argue against that. Your best potency conduit at the moment, Fury of the Skies, is just extra flat damage on your dotted targets. Important to keep your dots up again for this effect. Then Innate Resolve. This is going to be your Regrowth and Frenzied Regen. Healing increased by 21%. Really good scaling with Protector of the Grove. Really good just self-sustainability. Mandatory lock-in conduit. Then I went for the Deep Allegiance one, which is reducing the cooldown of your Empowerment, which can sometimes catch your opponents off guard when you squeeze out that extra damage 10 seconds faster, but sometimes it can be difficult because your Fury of Elune might not be perfectly aligned with it. But I've noticed that the empowerment lasts so long that you can activate the empowerment 10 seconds before Fury of Elune, and then Fury of Elune and still have the empowerment active as long as you're running around and picking up the balls that go on the ground. So you can kind of make it work in that regard. Not the best one, but it's your only option. Then moving down during combat, moving within 3 yards, you're not really paying attention to this. Is just extra mastery if it so happens to happen. And then Earthsign Vigor, which is very important. For 4 seconds after shifting into bear form, your health and armor are increased by 21%. This is going to help you a lot when enemies are activating their burst cooldowns on you to get this immediate beefiness when you go into bear and bolster up your Frenzied Regen. I think the valueness of that beefiness and that healing is more important than the just passive healing that happens the whole game. But again, that would be comp dependent. Where this is good, I don't really see a lot of those comps being viable. So I would say more often than not, you're going to get more value out of the Earthsign Vigor at the moment. I just realized that you guys can't see that one because it's cut off. So we'll just look at it here. The Earthsign Vigor. I actually kind of wonder if you were able to see. Okay, you were able to see my talents. Thank God. That's it for conduits. That's it for talents. Now, when we look at gear, your main priority is to, of course, get all the PvP gear. You want to get all of the haste and the versatility that you can. I like the On Use trinket, even though it has crit, because again, it lines up really well with your empowerment burst window and it's going to give you a lot of bang for your buck. However, I have shifted some of my sockets into haste, and this is to get to 20%. Around 20 to 21%, I've noticed is where I feel really good. I don't feel like my clones are kind of just, moseying along, taking forever to go off, and then I can't get my clone in time to save somebody, which is why I swapped my sockets out. I'm debating whether or not I want to switch a few more things over to haste to try and get access to faster cyclones as well, because it seems to be very important. And the legendary, which you'll never really have to worry about switching out, is going to be the Spalders of Kindred Affinity. And this one is you and your kindred spirit each gain a bonus secondary stat based on their covenant. This bonus is doubled while the bond is empowered, and this is the main reason why Balanced Druid is so competitive at the moment. And it's when you pair yourself up with a Necrolord partner, it will be 8% verse, and when you activate, that goes to 16% verse, and that is additive. It goes directly on top of your verse here, so you're probably going up above 50% versatility. So you got this big burst window where you're a beefy chicken nugget, and you are just going to be dumpstering people during that window of time. So play with Necrolord Demon Hunters, Necrolord Windwalker Monks, maybe even Necrolord Warriors. But very important that you have a Necrolord partner so that you can use this Kindred Affinity to be able to just blast targets down with versatility and really utilize this 2-set bonus. Now in 9.2, the 2-set bonus is changing and there's a lot of new stuff coming out. So I will likely revamp this video when 9.2 has arrived and things have been locked in and I've been able to play through it. So if you want to stay up to date with those patch notes and with these types of guides in real time, so you're always making the right decision with your gameplay, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'm also streaming every day at 11 a.m. PST on twitch.tv/Supatease. But now we have covered the gear, we've covered the legendaries, we've covered the covenants, the conduits, we've covered the talents. Let's get into a little bit of gameplay here. So I've got a VOD here against RMP, which is a very popular comp at the moment, and I'll just kind of run you through what it is that I'm trying to do. So I'm playing Demon Hunter, Boomkin, Shaman. This is my favorite comp at the moment. I think that it is the best Boomkin comp currently, and you can see against this we're running Holy Priest, Fire Mage, Subtlety Rogue. So the enemy team, we're going to switch to Fairy Swarm. You can see that off the talents parts of the video that I covered already, and this is to disarm the rogue. Usually disarming them on their first stun can be good, especially if you're starting to climb at the beginning of the ladder, but you may fall into a bit of a trap because they will hold their damage. So you may need to kind of think like, do I need to disarm right now? But if you don't disarm fast enough, you might get stunned. It becomes a really tough mind game for disarming the rogue. But if you land these disarms, you will totally shut down the rogue mage. They'll lose their stun lock combo, and then your teammates will be able to get out and assist, and you will just run the rogue mage over. So basically everything pivots on you landing these good disarms, which is why I think that it's mandatory lock-in for it here. So we get the Demon Hunter out of stealth. My first main goal is to kind of peel the opener. I need to deal with this holy ward that the rogue has. I want to solar beam the priest, and I want to disarm the rogue. So solar beam priest, disarm rogue, breaks up the stun. Sidhu's now out of a stun, full clone the rogue. Everybody is peeled here, and nobody's taking any damage. I try to clone the priest, should have cloned it faster out of the beam. They're going to swap targets to me. Now my Demon Hunter peels. Smoke bomb, good time to trinket. Jump into bear farm. If I'm going to trinket, I don't bark skin. That way I can save the bark skin for a stun later on. Important to split your defensive cooldowns up. But now dots are up, popping all my cooldowns, popping the Fury of Elune. Rogue Shadowy duels defensively on me. I incap his Cloak of Shadows. Incap Roar on Cloak of Shadows, very important, so that you can peel them because they're not taking any magic damage. It won't break. Here we got another kidney shot with a blind onto my healer. So I am going to use my bark skin. We end up using the trinket as well because it was shackles from the enemy team, which is going to absorb all my healing. So someone else is normally going to have to trinket if a shackle is used on that, but you want to split up your trinkets. Then we're just pushing forward. We're keeping dots on as many targets as possible, getting into Eclipse before we dump our Star Surges so we can do maximum damage. We're basically cleaving whoever comes nearby. We're going to clone the mage so that they can't sheep our Demon Hunter, and we can just kind of attack the priest. Fallback strat is to run the priest out of mana, push onto the priest for a solar beam, try and stop them from their go, keeping the rogue in combat, trying to find the rogue with the shadow sight whenever they stealth, dumping Star Surges during stuns from your Demon Hunter, very important component, and then empowering your Demon Hunter to push for kills, which allows us to push through Guardian. Assist your healer with Typhoon. You can stop Polymorphs out of DB. You can use Incap to stop Polymorphs out of DB, so I assist my healer here by just totally shutting down crowd control. Now they set up with a stun on me. There's CC on my healer, so my Demon Hunter will now sweep in, drop Darkness. So we've rotated one major cooldown from each player in a row and not overlap them at any point. This is very important when you're playing the Balance Druid because otherwise you're just going to get completely destroyed, especially against RMP. Now we have disarm available. The priest is almost doomed, so I've got to keep the rogue in combat, got to keep my dots up. We get a double stun. I can pump my Typhoon, knock the rogue down. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to shadow step or get a line to shadow step. I'm going to get into bear farm and preemptively Iron Fur because nobody can really save me right now. Basically, my Demon Hunter could trinket and stun something, but that's about it. So I'm going to try and be in bear farm, have bark skin. My Demon Hunter is going to stun the mage, imprison the rogue, using everything that they had to stop me from taking damage. It lets me live the stun. I can frenzied regen, jump out the side, and recover. So because I was in bear farm getting ready for that attack, knew the stun DRs are coming off, I was able to survive. Root beam the healer, stun onto the rogue. Now we're pushing forward onto the healer who's almost out of mana. We're just cleaving. They don't have any more stuns. We can knock them around, try and displace them away from their allies, try and go for cyclones. They fade it, but we were very close to winning this game. We're going to cyclone the priest. We have empowerment, Fury of Elune, so we pop our Fury of Elune here, but the rogue cloaks it. Again, Incap Roar on Cloak, really good idea. Here we can see Dragon's Breath onto my Shaman, so I pre-disarmed the rogue. That was to stop the rogue from going when my Shaman got DB'd, and just paying attention to that. Here we get blinded. We decide to trinket because we have Empower. The priest is at no mana, 0 health with no trinket. We're going to clone the rogue and off heal. This is where spamming your off heals when somebody else is the target on a go. Cyclone a DPS, spam off heal with regrowth. Then you can root all the targets. Then you can immediately go after whoever you want. We're going after the healer in this position because they just seem to be the most primed up. No absorb shields, really low mana. You want to pick up these little ghost guys that spawn. He's on the bridge to the right there by facing them. I don't even know if I did at this particular moment in this video, but picking up the ghost and actually picking up the ball that I left on the ground is very important. We hex the mage here. This is going to allow us to push on the priest for free, dump out our star surges. We have the priest so low at this point, but kidney shot, so we're going to beam the mage defensively, disarm the rogue, cyclone the rogue, off heal, and we trade spirit link because there's a shackle. Want better safe than sorry right at this point. The priest is at literally 10%, and they've used everything to try and kill us, and that is going to net us a kill now onto the holy priest. And you can see by rotating defensive cooldowns one at a time on each player in a certain priority, we're able to extend this game for some time.